Well, here it is, January 2012 in Pennsylvania, and what that means for a lot of the PA hunters is second season archery / flintlock muzzleloader season. This buck here, this particular buck, was taken by a good friend of mine with his flintlock muzzleloader, and this is the first buck that he's ever taken with his flintlock. So, in honoring that buck, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make this buck a European plaque mount. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I do that. I have absolutely no taxidermy experience. This is a do-it-yourself project. I'm sure some guys out there know some other tricks that are available, but I've had fun in putting a few of these together for myself and some other friends. And let me run you through some of the steps that I take in doing this. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to start working away at this hide, very similar to the way that you'd skin your deer. Take your time, don't get in a rush. You're a do-it-yourselfer, you know you're not going to get this done in record time. This is a more rewarding experience, and it's a way to save yourself a little bit of money and still have a displayed nice mount of your deer. So just take your knife up and just start working away at your hide. Okay, I've worked this up past the antlers, and I'm going to continue with my knife, and I'm going to continue to work this skin, this hide, straight off of the face of this deer. There you go. Now we'll go ahead and we'll work away at this neck and get this off there, work some of this extra meat off there, and it'll be ready to start boiling. Okay, moving on, we're ready for the boiling process. What I have is a big pot, some dish soap, to put in a little bit of dish soap in that pot, and that helps separate the meat and the fats off the face and off the skull. I have an electric burner, which I'm going to boil the water with. Some of the tools that I use to help clean the face and the skull are, I have a wire brush, a staple puller, a pair of hemostats similar to what you'd use to get a hook out of a fish's mouth, needle nose pliers, and a knife. Now we've had this deer skull simmering for the last 4.5 hours. I did not take it to a rolling boil, I kept it to simmer, and as you can see, a lot of the flesh is working itself off the bone. Back over the table, I have some cardboard down to catch all this flesh, and I'm going to start working as much of this as possible off this deer skull. One important thing to remember is when you're working on this nose area, if you've never done one of these, make sure you take a good look at a picture of a European plaque, and when you start tearing away at this, you don't want to grab the bone and break it. There's a lot of cartilage in here that you're going to be able to tear away at and pull out of here, but make sure you don't grab any of the bone and crack it, because then you're going to ruin that nice look of that long slender snout coming down on your European mount. Another little trick when you're trying to get these nasal cavities cleaned out, take a pair of hemostats, like these fishing ones, reach up inside there, and you can grab little pieces out of there. Another thing I want you guys to consider doing now is you have what seems to be like the ear canals that are right here, and when you have it cleaned up this nice, you can see them right here. Those are going to be popped right out of there. There's one on each side. You can see the little hole. You're going to go ahead and put something in that hole and just start cracking that out of there, and that should pop straight out of there. And there we go. It just popped straight out. You see that? That side was still in pretty tight. This side, you put your pliers in, start pushing down, and as you can see, it pops straight out also. Now one of the more difficult parts of this project is getting this brain out of the skull. You just have to start working at it. You have to take your pliers, your hemostats, screwdriver, whatever you have that you can get inside there and start pulling away, and just keep pulling it out. It's a process. Just take your time, get it out of there, because if you don't, it's going to stink. Now that you have the brain out of the skull, the nasal cavity pretty much cleared up, start working this wire brush around this top part and this back part here. This part holds on to a lot of cartilage, as you'll see, and so does this top part. Pay close attention to be very careful around the antlers, because you don't want to take away this natural, nice brownish look that the antlers usually hold around their bases from these deer rubbing trees. Hey, let's go ahead and start that boiling process again to clean the skull up the rest of the way, and make sure to put a little dish soap in with that water. Let it simmer again for 3 more hours. Now we're back onto the table, and it's time to put that wire brush to work. This wire brush will help remove all this extra cartilage that's sticking to the bone. You take this wire brush and you work away at these teeth, all that dirt will come out of there. And what doesn't come out will whiten up when you whiten the skull. Now we're going to start the process of whitening the skull. After doing research on this, I found out that bleaching the skull can whiten the skull, but it will also eat away at the bone. So we're going to go with another process other than bleaching, and we're going to add this powder lightener that can be found at a salon store, mixed with volume 40 cream. I'll take a container like this. Definitely wear gloves because these are chemicals. And I'll put an amount of that volume 40 in there. Next I'll open up the powder lightener. I'll take a healthy scoop of that. And I'll add it to the volume 40. Mix the volume 40 and the powder lightener together, and what you're going to come up with, you want to have a pasty looking combination of these chemicals. And you're going to take this, you're going to use a small paintbrush, this is a 1-inch paintbrush, and you're going to dab it all over that skull. Be very careful not to get that on these antlers, because what you'll do is you'll lighten up these antlers and you'll take away from that really nice natural look. Go ahead and take your brush and start painting it on there. Be sure to work this really good into all the crevices, really good into the eye socket to brighten it up, and as far up in the nasal cavity as you can and down through there to really brighten that up also. Now that our skull's been painted with the chemicals, we're going to let these chemicals work a good 6 to 8 hours. These chemicals have now had several hours to work. So let's go ahead and rinse that skull off, repeat this process a few more times, and brighten up that skull for our plaque. As you can see, that combination of the peroxide 40 and powder lightener did an outstanding job at whitening the skull. Now let me show you a couple options for displaying your European mount. One option is to display your European mount without a plaque. What you'll need to do is take a 4-inch all-purpose screw, screw it into the wall, make sure you have a wall stud behind it for it to grab onto. Screw it in at approximately a 45-degree angle, and take your European mount, and where you have a hole in the back of the skull, I want you to take that hole and I want you to put it right onto that screw. Make sure it's on there good, feel secure, and there you have it. Another option is going to be placing this European mount onto a plaque, and I'm going to show you where to drill a pilot hole for your screw to hold this to the plaque. You'll see the opening where the spinal cord went into the brain. Go right below that, and you're going to see these 2 divots here. Come right below those 2, and you'll see 2 other little marks. Go in between those 4 marks and place a dot. That's where you're going to drill for your pilot hole. Now I marked my plaque, and I'm going to go ahead and drill through it. Now I'm going to take my 3/8 inch drill bit, and I'm just going to take this down a little bit so that I can countersink my screw head. There you go. That should be plenty. In preparation and securing the plaque to the mount, what I do is I take an old blanket, this old fleece blanket, I take my mount, my skull, I place the antlers against the back of the table, and I place the face, the fragile part of this skull, on that blanket. So when I'm pushing together, I don't push down and break the skull. Okay, now I took a 3-inch screw, I drilled it into the plaque, and I have it sticking out far enough on the other side so that it's just touching my pilot hole on my European mount. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this on top of my mount, and I'm going to drill it the rest of the way in. Lined up with the pilot hole. Don't over tighten it yet. What you want to do is you want to turn your plaque around, and so your teeth don't scratch. Before it's too tight, you want to move that so it's nice and centered on your plaque. Once you get that nice and centered, just by holding the plaque, You want to take that, turn it back around, and go ahead and tighten it in there. Don't over tighten it because you do not want to break your mount and you don't want to crack your plaque. Don't forget to add your hardware for hanging your plaque. Now let's go see it on the wall. What a rewarding project. A beautiful European mount to be displayed for many years to come. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you find it useful when you're trying to display one of your special memories. Take care and best of luck in the outdoors.